Right. I'll
Recording has started.
welcome everyone to the infrastructure meeting for April. And I suppose the easiest way for me to do this will be to ask everybody who is present, because I can see, I cannot see Sharon. Is she present, or an apology? Hello?
As an apology, councillor.
Sharon's an apology, sorry.
Chairman, I'm just going to go and grab some different earphones. I'm struggling with my computer, so I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you, Tank.
David, Bridget,
Yes.
James? Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, you're very faint, but yeah, we can hear you.
The councillor, after while councillor Mantry's gone, we'll just tell you who's in the room. So we've got Sean still looking after IT. We've got Wendy taking notes. We've got Ron, Stephen and James from David's directorate. We've got David, the mayor and myself.
Yeah, you're very faint to me too, Bridget.
Oh, okay.
That's a bit better, yeah.
I'll yell.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Right, now Lisa's back. Sharon is an apology. I'll now call for a confirmation of the last minutes, which was held on the 23rd of January. Hang on, there's Mayor Simmons there. I haven't seen him. Oh,
See that?
yeah.
That's me.
Oh, that's his hand.
Nice if you're not careful.
Yeah. So everybody is present except Sharon.
Yeah, I might move to a better position when I finish lunch, please, Mr. Chairman.
Right, would someone like to move that we accept the minutes for the last infrastructure meeting on 23rd of January?
Yeah, Councillor Corman moves, Mr. Chair.
And Councillor Roundtree seconds.
Yes.
All those in favour? You can see all that to
You right, Wendy? Record.
Bridget or whoever, or James, Wendy.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe just speak your name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Carry unanimous. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the minutes action list. I thought the easiest way probably to go through this would to start with Councillor Quailman and Councillor Roundtree, Mayor Simmons, to see if they have got any questions instead of people all over the place. So I'll start with Councillor Quailman, if that's acceptable to all the other members of the committee.
I'm okay. Councillor Corman's okay with that.
Yep. Councillor Roundtree, you're okay with that? Councillor Roundtree, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm just struggling. I'm just trying to get my earphones going.
Okay.
I'm having a bit of trouble trying to find something I can hear well on. Kangaroo ate my earphones.
Ms. Simmons, you're okay with that?
Absolutely, that'll be fine.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a 44-gallon drum.
Well, we are on hand.
Okay. Right, minutes action list. Councillor Coleman, have you got anything out of the minutes action list?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Three I have. First one is the 11th of January motions without notice, Tyrone Road and Mallee Highway intersection. So through the chair to David, could you just update where we really are, or latest information on that issue, please?
Yeah, through Mr. Chairman, I may refer to.
You're not on.
Have you got mute on?
Yeah, no,
The town.
Have you got mute on?
He's not.
You got the agenda, I haven't got the
Yeah,
agenda.
I got mute, videos off, mute's off.
Yeah.
But it's not doing it now, so. Through Mr. Chairman, I will refer to James given his involvement with this project.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I've spoken to DIPTI with regard to that intersection, and they've taken responsibility for a portion of the intersection. So the signage that is directly affected to the railway line, I believe it's within the first 100 metres of the intersection. They are responsible for, and they have put it on their list of works to go and review and upgrade as required. The advanced warning signs outside of that 100 metres are council's responsibility, and we'll be updating them as required as well. So that's where we're at with that one.
Yeah.
Secondly, Councillor Kwong.
Yeah, thank you for that. And the next one, Mr. Chair, is through you to the CEO. 13th of January, surplus assets. Just in addition to that, I just wanted to query, since we're getting rid of disposing of stuff up the depot, what about all the abandoned vehicles, please?
Through you, Chair, David, can give an update on that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, I can advise that as part of the disposal process, anything of value will be disposed of through the auction process. However, the vehicles, they will be dealt with the disposal of metal recycling. So I know Steve has been receiving quotes in regards to the pickup of all metal, both at the depot and waste depots. Do you elaborate, sir?
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. So with respect to that, Sims Metal Management have been engaged to take that service for us, and they are currently doing a review of all the sites today to complete their WHS documentation.
Sorry to interrupt there, but I can hear someone in the background, but I can't hear a word they're saying.
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear as well.
Same here.
We've just moved the speaker. How does that sound, Councillor Arthur?
Sorry?
We've just moved the speaker. Does that sound any clearer?
Yeah, no, I think it was Steve talking, but I couldn't understand a word he was saying.
Okay.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair. So with respect to the metal recycling, Sims Metal Management have been engaged to undertake that on behalf of council. And today they're actually doing a review of all the sites to complete their WHS paperwork. The advice I've received is they're hoping to actually commence removal of scrap metal, including those abandoned vehicles, next week.
Very static, but I've got the lowdown. What about you, Councillor Qualman?
Yeah, I think I've got bits and pieces of that. Thank you. And my last one is 10th of September, Princess Highway, Access Road, through the chair to the CEO. Bridget, how did you get on with that? Could you just enlighten me how the meeting went with Mrs. Green, please?
As I updated, I think at a council meeting, David and I met with Mrs. Green on site and her partner. We came to a couple of things that we would do for them. One was to trim the trees. We talked about maybe a yellow line being an option to discourage people from parking on the resident side of the highway. But in the first instance, we were going to trim the trees that were really quite overhanging. She was concerned about the speed, but speed wasn't an issue in the data that we collected. In fact, 85% of users of that road were within the speed limit or lower. So it wasn't, it was more about just how the road is utilised and the fact that there's a bitumen part of it and then there's the unsealed part. I suppose her ultimate aim would be to have the whole of the unsealed part sealed, but from a user and a, I suppose, cost per person, you wouldn't probably entertain that in the short term. We did look at the width of the road, which was more than adequate for 2 cars to pass, but I think the issue is that some people actually park on the sealed part of the road. So the first instance, we're trimming the trees so that people have clear visibility, and we're going, she was happy to see how that went, and then we will, if there's more to be done, it'll be a yellow line along the guttering to discourage parking there. So it's a series of things, but from the conversations with Mrs. Green, she was more than happy with that approach.
I might, through you, Mr. Chairman, I might elaborate if I can. But what I will do, I'll share my screen. so everyone can see. Okay, we're all looking at the screen.
Yep.
It's probably, first of all, the image here is quite old, 2014. So what we're looking at now is a lot different to what you can see on the screen. In most cases out there on site, the vegetation is coming well and truly out onto the road. This is probably the traffic engineer and they're coming out, but what's happening, the people travelling down this side of the road, they're trying to maintain as much of the sealed surfaces as they can. But when you're coming from this direction, you're confronted with trees coming out well and truly onto the road, and it's pushing the motorist out almost onto the other side of the road. Looking at the dimensions of the road is of a width that is suitable in regards to road design. But the problem we have are the trees approaching out into the road. So as Bridget mentioned, the first step that we'll look at doing is tree trimming. And then if there is still an issue with people coming out and not keeping to the left as practically as they can, we'll then look at the option of putting a centre line down the road.
Thank you for that explanation, David. Councillor Coleman, any more?
No, just to say that last one was, I could hear Bridget really well and Dave, and that was a very comprehensive report on that issue, and that's well done to both of you. Now, I'm finished now with my minute action list. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Roundtree.
I don't have anything more to ask. I think Councillor Coleman has covered off on the things that were interesting me, so I'm all good. Thank you.
Mayor Simmons.
I want to find mine, Mr. Chairman. 7.3. 7.3. Where's it gone? 7.3.
August.
Oh, yes. This is about, Mr. Chairman. Where are we going with the Princes Highway upgrade? Consultation appears to be complete. With who? With my question, I'm looking at the director and the CEO. We sent some letters to Limestone Coast LGA. I don't think we've been responded to by them, to the best of my knowledge. Department, the reason for this motion was around making sure that some of the money for a Princes Highway upgrade ended up on the Princes Highway and not somewhere else. We form a fair piece of the Princes Highway in South Australia, but the concern was that they will do nothing in our area. So it appears we still don't know any more than we knew before. We probably need to follow that up with particularly Limestone Coast. They'll think it's all for them. They believe that they're the only people on the Princes Highway. That was my first one. Second one's the last one in appears to be complete about motor vehicles. It's sort of the last two motions about the light vehicle fleet. Like 5.2 and 6.2. I think it says here action at ordinary meeting. I think that's partially right. I wonder if we could have a the motor vehicle fleet that we own today. I'm just asking the question in sent out to elected members again. It was quite a comprehensive report at the time. And would that be possible?
Yes.
Yeah. Go through it, 2 minutes and go through it again.
Yeah.
But sorry, Mr. Chair, the CEO might want to give a response while I eat the vanilla slice.
So we can, David's just suggested to you, Chair, that we can bring that listing up on the screen now if you want to go through it quickly.
Yep.
And for elected members' benefit, I brought the ASX back today, somewhat clouded. Well, Wendy,
Good job.
Wendy hasn't ticked off on that yet.
Well done, Paul.
Sorry, I've got to stop sharing to get in there. What do you want to look at? The odometer readings?
Admin, please.
Yeah.
I cannot hear what's going on there. Is anyone talking?
Yeah, we're just getting the fleet up now on the screen for you, rather than having to circulate it out of session.
AR 11-6054.
Just bear with us 1 minute.
AR 11-6054. Yeah, I'm just waiting for this super speed internet to do its thing.
It could come Friday, won't it?
Well,
Yeah, I can't guarantee I'll have us on the new one on Friday, but next week we will.
You're very clear, Sean.
okay, I'll share my screen.
Do you want me to do it and you can?
So is that sharing my screen?
No, you've got to do the share.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll give you a quick update in regards to some recent changes. In consultation with various staff, myself and the CEO have put a lot of work into looking at vehicle changes. As most of you would be aware, a lot of our contracts come to an end this year, in October, November this year. In the recent weeks, what we have done, both the Prados that were driven by myself and Deb have been returned to Toyota Fleet. Between myself and Wendy, we negotiated with Toyota Fleet, and recognising some of the reduction in the kilometres that the vehicle driven by Deb has driven, they reduced the price to return the vehicle. So that was certainly a win. The other thing that we've done, obviously, is the Mayor has returned his car. I might look at this here. Well, actually, this one's probably easy. Yes. So, based on that, the other thing, the Menengi Paul car has been returned here to Tailem Bend and is currently being utilised as a pool car here at Tailem Bend. In the interim, Deb and myself are driving both, or a pool car each. So we now have reduced the fleet, and you've got Judy in one car as well. So the fleet has now been reduced down to the 4 vehicles.
That's for you, Chair. Remember at the council meeting, councillors, we talked about the fact that the 2 Prados returned, and have the 2 directors in their contract now. They won't have a car as part of their package, that they will get an allowance instead. But to give them time to sort out their personal arrangements with the car, from the 1st of July, they will use 2 of those cars for community use and for what they need to do until that point in time. The other thing is that we are quite comfortable reducing the fleet to that point. If after the COVID-19 finishes and we go back into the community, and if there's a flurry of activity around recovery, we'll look at then, do we have the vehicles that we need? Can we manage with what we've got, or we may need another short-term one, just depending on what the recovery looks like and what the expectations are from the state and the Commonwealth about how local government gets involved.
Oh, sounds good. So how many cars have we, so what was the total cars we had and what are we down to now?
So looking at this here, this was what we had mid last year, but since mid last year we have reduced the fleet from 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So from 9 down to 4.
That's
So
really good.
yellow have been returned.
Well done.
Yep, that's good.
Yep, really good.
The wrong way. Sorry, that's. It's gone. Sorry.
We've gone from 9 cars to 4 cars.
Down to 4 cars, yes.
Can we make the, Wendy, can we note that in the minutes, in the answer for the other councillors to know? Because with the vague answers we put in, that's not going to be emphasised. So I just believe we should put that in.
Good idea, Mr. Chairman.
I support that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, the point would be that all 4 of those remaining fleet cars finish up in November this year on contract. Is that? Yeah. So that's there is some consideration needs to be given. We're better off owning or leasing. That's the only point I'd make.
And through you, Chair, we're looking at that now because we think there's probably some good deals to be had. So we're just starting to get on the front foot and have a look at what the options are.
Chairman, I don't know what the committee feels, but I've sort of thought that Paul needs at least one reasonable sized car if 4 or 5 councillors come staff are going somewhere. The Corolla,
I'd agree with that.
even the ASX is a little bit comfy for most of us, I think.
But through you, Chair, that may be the case, but depending on the frequency, it may still be cheaper that we lease a car for a week if we need to do that, rather than have a permanent arrangement in place.
Bring back the Commodore.
They're all second hand now, unfortunately. I'd agree with that. You do need one pool vehicle of reasonable size. You can't have them all Toyota Corollas, as you say. You know, like if there's a works conference in Adelaide or something like that, and 3 or 4 go down together. There's not much room in a Corolla, and we haven't got the smallest of people around this. We've got well-built people, shall we say.
30 stock.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Interestingly, talking with LGA Procurement, the most sold car at the moment for local government is a Toyota Corolla and the hybrid version. They're the most popular car, and in looking at new cars recently, it's quite surprising actually how roomy the Corollas are compared to what they used to be. So
we'll have a look what
Have a look
makes
more.
sense in the purpose.
Well, that would be something that'll come out of the review on what we need, I suppose, and that would be the CEO's recommendation to the council. Or your recommendation. He's delegated the job to you.
Well, probably one of the reasons I raised it with Bridget some weeks ago is that if council was to purchase some motor vehicles, do we need to have that in this year's budget process? Why I raised it.
To be honest, maybe we can have a look at that, but I don't think there's a rush.
Yeah, no, that's my point. I think I'm done. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's all. I've just got a couple. It's regarding the details of the traffic count of 711. Councillor Qualman moved that program be investigated for traffic counters on roads within council over a yearly basis. Councils are to provide this as part of the formulation of the road hierarchy plan and provide the committee with the details of the road traffic counters for the last 3 financial years. Now, the report was made that it'll be made available when staff are available. But surely, if we have been putting these counters out, collating the information should have been put, for example, onto that road statistics for if it's being run by ASICS or our own. Surely they're not just kept in the bottom drawer, so that we know that, for example, like I know we talk Carcooma Road, but Carcooma Road 6 years ago to 5 years ago to what it is now is no comparison. So surely we'd have records of all those, and those records of the traffic counts are actually put against the road histories. Is that correct, David, or not?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, the road data that we collect now, plus the historical data that we have, has been forwarded through to ASCETIC. Given the fact that we're also going through a process at the moment where we're looking at the revaluation of our road network, our unsealed road network, a lot of that traffic count data will be updated into the system at the same time as the new roads revaluation data.
And
But the answer to your question, councillor, is yes, we do keep the historical data and it forms part of our intelligence around those roads.
what is the time factor with that though, David? Because it should have a hell of a bearing, that the information that's collated here on how we spend and where we spend our money on our roads.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, we certainly take into consideration the traffic data whenever we do any prioritisation process. It's one thing that we do look at. And as we've discussed before, if you're looking at two comparable roads in regards to how much money you need to spend on them, you typically come back to the usage on each road. And that usage is determined by the traffic data, if we have it. You want to add?
Thank you. That's all I've got. Nobody else got any on the action list? That's it. Now we'll go to the next item is questions with notice. Councillor Qualman, are you satisfied with that answer from Director David?
To you, Mr. Chairman, it says a verbal response, so through you to David, could I have some verbal response? Thank you.
Okay.
I already had provided, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I might bring it up on share the screen again. Sorry, somebody else is sharing it, so you'll have to.
If I need to adjust anything, just tell me.
Now, James, if you want to jump in at any point, happy for you to do so. The information I did see clarification from the NHVR in regards to the process, as I thought it may have changed since we discussed a similar matter before, but it hasn't. The easiest way to have a look at any gazetted road is still through the RavNet system, which is what I'm looking at now. The other point I might make first is that I got the name of the vehicle, but a general access vehicle, which is typically a vehicle up to 19 metres, a vehicle that we know as being a typical truck, semi-trailer, they're allowed to go on any road unless there are specific restrictions applied to that road, whether it be a gross load limit, length limit. Couple of examples, down on Magpie Drive in Tailem Bend, you have a length limit. You have other limits in regards to weight, given the capacity of a bridge. But typically, any vehicle up to 19 metres can go down the road unless otherwise indicated. Any vehicle above that class, you can only go down the road if it's gazetted, or whether or not you have a permit to do so. Looking at the exit out of the Shell service station here, it's not going to go any further. That is typically that intersection here. What we're looking at, the minimum gazetted vehicle class being a 23 metre general mass limit vehicle, which is shown by the black lines. So as you go down, some of the roads turn off. So as you can see, Granites Road is gazetted, Station Drive is gazetted, Caldy Road's gazetted. The other typical class we will look at are a 23 metre B double high mass limit. So in answer to your question, Councillor Corman, there is no approved route from the back of the Shell service station out onto Murray Street. The vehicle to come out in that direction, they would require a permit to do so.
Can I add something, Mr. Chairman? All that really says to me is that if there was a sign there, which there was, we need to put it back up. That's all it really means to me.
Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry to correct you, but we would encourage the property owner being Shell to erect it. The driver, what we would do as an authority, if we had an issue with a vehicle doing it, this is where we should approach either the NHVR or SAPOL and request that they enforce it. But
Has there been through you, Mr. Chairman, has there been a problem with trucks coming out that exit? Is this why it's been brought up?
Has there been a complaint, Councillor Coleman?
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Oh, not really. I've just noticed it myself, and I've seen it numerous times now. The sign's gone. Obviously, the drivers are probably not quite aware. My concerns is that Malley Street up to handle B doubles? That's the other concern. That's probably why I did raise this question.
yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman, I know the intersection there, the Murray-Malley Street intersection, it was designed to accommodate B doubles, and the recent reconstruction of Murray Street was built to accommodate the heavier vehicle as well. Hence why the intersections along Malley Street are done with a deep lift asphalt.
Satisfied, Councillor Coleman?
Well, I just want to say something. I agree with Councillor Simmons that when he raised it, that we should maybe approach the Shell or whoever's responsible and put the sign up, because technically they're breaking the law.
David?
We'll approach Shell. We will approach Shell to ask them to place a sign.
Satisfied? Brendan?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Mr. Chair, thanks for all that work. I appreciate the input from everybody.
The next question we've noticed is yours again. Are you satisfied with that reply, or want an expansion?
I just want to make a little bit of comment for information for everybody. I appreciate that we are in the process of having a look at it and maybe hopefully re-establish some power. Years ago, it was powered, and there were what I regarded as electrical auxiliaries. I meant by it was wiring around the top fascia there, and they had a little globe, you know, those type screw-in globes, and they're all coloured. And Christmas time, New Year's Eve, and stuff like that, they used to turn it on special functions, and that's what it was just a pity when it got re-roofed that was removed. So that's why I'm just asking the question, and I thought I'd put out a bit more information to everybody. But yeah, I appreciate the answer, and looks like we'll wait to see what the report back from the appropriate electrician, Mr. Chair.
Through you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, on that subject, if we're looking at buying this, should any of those repairs be done before we buy it and paid for by Dipty?
It's ours.
For you, Councillor.
This is not the one we were discussing the other day then?
Yeah.
But we own the rotunda, is my understanding, Councillor.
Oh, okay. They only own the land.
Yep.
Rightio. Thank you.
Okay. Has anybody else got any further questions without notice?
We're still in questions with notice, Mr. Chair.
We've finished that, haven't we?
Yep.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I may, because I've got one question without notice, please.
There you go, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding now the ceiling project, the drought extension grant of Myrtle Place and now Pond Street, could one of the managers, the construction manager or the infrastructure and assets director, advised us that suitable consultation will be carried out with the residents that reside on those streets of the impending works that are about to happen, you know, a bit of inconvenience and stuff like that, please.
David? James?
Yeah. So I might get James to go through what process we'll go through in regards to notifying residents. But prior to that, I'll just update you on where we're at with Fulton Hogan. I have been in contact with Fulton Hogan last week. They're just updating their quote to reflect Pond Street as opposed to
Wattle
Street. So once that's done, we'll be able to update you further on that. But they're still expecting to start works hopefully early May, which they're going to need to given the weather. So, but I might just hand over to James and he can outline the process we'll go through in regards to resident notification.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. It's very similar to what we've done at Kermadooka and Benindi with the footpath projects. I've done up a simple letter advising the residents about some dates for construction. We've also included on there a very brief plan showing what the scope of works involved, directing them to contact myself if they have any questions or any further queries that they may have with regards to the works. But yeah, very simple letter drop in their letterbox or under their front door, you know, a week in advance of any works taking place.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. That was and thanks to James and Dave. That was a good explanation of what's going to happen and good community consultation. Thank you.
Councillor Roundtree.
Yes, I have a question without notice regarding the progress of a management plan for the Canalpin Pool Caravan Park. There was discussion about getting one organised, and I'm wondering if there's been any progress or with that.
Through you, Chair, Deb and I have made a time to have a discussion about the governance arrangements around that. And just to let you know, Councillor, Mr. May is now a resident at the Caravan Park for a short term because of a whole lot of things, but we arranged that with him last week. He's not in a caretaker position, he's just there because that suits him at the moment. We are also looking at some master planning, which will then be presented to you as a shovel-ready project and what else we need to do with the Caravan Park, apart from the pool, which is already in the drought funding.
That's great, thank you.
I'd like to make a comment about that. The Coorong Council's got 2 caravan parks. One we receive no money for except rates. One that costs us a lot of money. And most councils, or nearly all the councils I know of, they've got caravan parks, they are a earning portion. I'm wondering why we have to spend $25,000 on a feasibility study at the Canalpin pool. And my belief is the pool and the caravan park should be approached as separate entities, and the caravan park should be approached on the basis of, and surely we've got enough intelligent people on the staff and as elected members to make the decision on it either be an RV park or a caravan park, and then decide on what you want to do, because you know, we just cannot afford to keep losing the amount of money we lose. And it is RV parks now seem to be the way a lot of councils are going, and they still make money out of them. Councillor Roundtree.
Well, I sort of disagree with a fair bit of what you just said, obviously. We approach this from different perspectives at all times, I think. I would like to see, with the management report that's done, is to perhaps look at what the options are. I think if there's a compelling case and there's evidence to support an RV park over a caravan park, okay, but let's look at the options first, and let's also look at whether they can be both, whether it can be both a caravan park. I mean, I think there was an idea floated around by having it that you did a tap and go to pay for electricity for those who wanted it, but it wasn't freely available to those who didn't. I thought that was a good idea, but I don't believe we've actually done any decent reports or investigation into what our options are for this area, and it just keeps sitting there. So I am encouraged that we are going to look at a management plan and an overall plan for that whole area, and they are interlocked to a certain degree. And can I also just say that with the minutes there where it just says CEO provided a verbal response, are we able to get any more information into that, so that anyone who reads these minutes actually does understand what is happening? I'm not sure if that's is okay, but be just, you know, someone will ask me and then I've got to try and remember what was said. It'd just be handy to document a little bit about what we are coming up with answers here.
For you, Chair, we may have a look what the response was also at the General Council meeting, because it was a very similar discussion, so we'll make sure
Yep.
that both
They're consistent.
Yep.
Yeah. And so where it says Councillor Roundtree, Canalpin Caravan Park, I was asking about the management plan that was discussed a while ago for both the caravan park and the pool, because I think that certainly the pool management plan was quite urgent. The caravan park management plan isn't as urgent, but the pool one, I think Peter Bond identified a number of issues that needed to be looked at. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
There's just one other question I would like to put to the CEO or David. I'm not sure who would answer this, but with the Murray Coorong Trail report, which is in the information document last meeting, and the considerable amount of recommendations that have been made, and the comment that has been made that you know, it is recommended council monitor usage of the trail by walkers and cyclists and look to improve facilities in the future if demand warrants, and as additional funding becomes available in order to mitigate the risk to council, the project management team will execute additional and supplementary works as identified in the report. I would like that to become an actually item to be investigated and report brought back to this committee, because if we go through that, there could be there is going to be quite a considerable expense involved, and we really need to have a look at this before we go holers bolers, because don't forget, within the scheme of things, we've probably got about another 130, 140 k's of walking trail, bike trail that they want to put in our area that we will have to maintain. So could I have an answer from David or Bridget, please?
For you, Chair, you may remember at the last council meeting we talked about this as well. What we intend to do is to look at the 7 stages of the Coorong Murray Trail that have been suggested. We, as I noted before, we have done no work on that, so the intention is to do a scoping of each of those stages so that we have them shovel ready. And when we do the shovel ready briefing with you sometime in May, it will be one of the projects that we will have the 7 stages scoped out at a high level with some plans that and some high level costing, so that we have them in a condition where if funding becomes available, we can pitch which stage is most suitable for that particular funding package at the time. But to date, there has been very little in terms of the scope of works around each of those stages, apart from the original plan. So that approach hasn't changed since I updated you at the council around that. So we are still planning to come back to you in May to do a shovel ready session. There'll be 3 projects that will show you what the shovel ready would be. 2 of them you've already endorsed. So we'll continue with those, but at that session I'll also want to talk with councillors about what their ideas are about shovel ready projects into the future. So we'll then we won't probably have the capacity to do all of them, but then we'll get some idea from council about the priority of each of them and what your top priorities are, so that we can go and do some further work. So the 2 that are shovel ready and that you've agreed to in past conversations is one around the Coorong Murray Trail and the 7 stages, and the second one is around the Meningie Skate Park, which missed out on the drought funding. So we wanted to show you what a shovel-ready project would look like in different settings. So the Meningie Skate Park is a very standalone type of project, whereas the Coorong Murray Trail is a big project that can have multiple stages that we can divide up and do as each of those stages attract grant funding money. And the third one that we thought we might give you a as an example is the small infrastructure that the Mayor, Councillor Lang and I saw when we went to Moama, thank you, a couple of weeks ago. They have a structure that allows people with a disability to access the water in their canoes or whatever vehicle they're using. And so I've asked David to have a look at the project down at the Meningie jetty to see if they can, what would be the cost of retrofitting or making sure that some infrastructure is in place so that if we want to retrofit something like that into the future, we can do it easily. So those three projects will come to you with a description of what a shovel-ready project looks like, and then we'll get further ideas from councillors as to what else they might want to see on that list that will provide us with the basis for our grant applications over the next 12 months.
Councillor Roundtree, sorry.
Will the Canalpin Pool Precinct be part of that shovel-ready example?
Councillor, I think that the money allocated for the swimming pool is what it is, so that's one part of it. I think the governance arrangements we can do without much extra cost. I think it's more of a working out. The thing that may require some shovel-ready activity might be around if we go to a electronic booking system and we may need to purchase some software. But I think that can be done within current resources.
I think the other thing we were looking at through you, Mr. Chairman, was the extra things that were needed around there, like the fencing, the car park, the canteen area, the toilets. There was a range of other things that we were discussing as being shovel-ready projects that were going to go on the list to be ready to go should some sort of community grant or infrastructure grant become available. So I would still like to see that progress. So if that does become available, we can just jump straight into fixing those assets up.
Sorry, Councillor Landry, you're correct. That is another group, yes.
I just make one comment there. With this report, there's some things that we have to fix up now because that part of the walking trail has already been built and put in place. Now, once again, it gets back to when we design and cost all these things, we've got everything, all our ducks in a row, because now all of a sudden this portion has been finished. This portion has been subsidised from the Office of Recreation and Sport or whoever it was. I can't remember who started the whole thing off. But now we have got extra expenses, so that's one thing we've got to look at, and that's why I would like this down as an item that can be followed up.
So, Councillor, we are, through you, Chair, we are looking, and you will receive an email probably in the next couple of days around the whole of life cost for that part of the Coorong Trail that we've constructed. And when we look at the 7 stages of the next part of the actual construction of this trail, there will be a component that will say that what the whole of life costs will be based on information that Aesthetic will give us around the costings for that.
Yep. Okay. No more questions? Anyone got any more questions without notice? No, we'll go on to the next section, which is motions without notice. We have none. Motions without notice. Do we have any motions without notice? Nope. Okay, we'll quickly get through this. We'll go on to the next item, is item 10, which is a capital works update. And it'll be David or James, I suppose. Over to you, David.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll hand over my computer to James and he's going to bring up the screen and go through.
Welcome, Tracy.
Do you want?
We're just noting the minutes, councillor Hill, that you just joined us.
I couldn't quite hear that, Bridget.
We're just noting the minutes, councillor Hill has just joined.
Yeah, I'm just here as an observer.
Okay.
She is the public.
We'll have to stop sharing, I think.
Sorry. Oh. Do you want me to put it down as an attending?
Okay, hopefully everyone can see that spreadsheet on the screen. So what this spreadsheet is, we've gone through in the past. Obviously, it has all of our categories of capital works for the year.
What's the camera? Can you just move what the shadow is?
That's on the same.
Oh, that's anyhow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only seeing that.
I'll just unhide a couple of columns here so we can see the rows.
So one screen at a time. You can get two, but imagine an iPad with two screens plus the people. Too much.
So as we go through these items, I'll provide a brief update on where we're at. And you can see here the comment which was provided for the third quarter financial review as well. So in terms of sealed roads, we have a very small amount of expenditure left to spend there, which we have one small project to be completed still. That will be completely expended in the coming weeks. Unsealed roads program, we have a few roads left to complete here, and you can see the program for the roads as detailed there in the particular dates as well. So at the moment, we are currently on Pascoe Road. Just for your information as well, the green roads are roads conducted by Coorong District Council staff, and the red is contracted services. So this is what I use to track where the guys are working and where the contractors are at. As you'll see, 4th of May being Monday next week, we're due to start Torna Hut Road, and then through onto Gunwell Road and Ware Road to complete the financial year.
James, I've got a couple of questions around water. Is the list of roads that councillors saw 8-10 months ago, is it still the same roads, or have we changed some of the priorities for some reasons?
Yeah, so there has been one change. One of those changes was Salt Creek Road. We've sourced about 4 different quarries for Salt Creek Road, had the material tested, and long story short, it was just not suitable to really be constructing a road out of that material. Poor quality stone. So we wanted to spend more time investigating the options of bringing material from a further distance of better quality, and or looking into an artificial stabiliser such as foam bitumen or cement stabilising, doing a bit of a costing exercise to see which would actually be better value for money through the whole of life. So what we've done, we've substituted the 2.5 kilometres from that road onto Ware Road, which will see Ware Road, we have rubble pit open and raised. So that rubble was there ready to go for next financial year. We've simply brought that 2.5 k's forward and pushed Salt Creek back to next financial year.
Well, where's that Ware Road pit?
Ware Road pit is on Kruger Road, on the just not too far off the intersection of Kruger and Everton Road. Landowner there is Leicester Cattle.
Very good. We negotiate that. The second one I've got is Pascoe Road.
Yep.
How much are we doing, and how much were we going to do, sort of thing? And in association with Benning Road, perhaps.
Pascoe Road, there hasn't been a change to the original plan. That's still 3 kilometres. It starts, if I remember correctly, it starts about 1 kilometre north of the intersection with Venning Road, stretches around those corners and a few of those dips there. That material is coming from very close to the intersection of Pascoe Road and Heinrich Road at a property owned by Kevin Swars.
Is that good rubble?
Yes. Yeah, that rubble, very hard stone. We ended up needing a rock breaker into that quarry to actually raise the stone, which is good news at the end of the day. Once you get onto the road, you end up with a nice hard material. So we would see the extra investment in raising the material, we would see that in the life of the road and in the long run. So, and like we do with all unsealed roads, the test results from those materials get sent to Aesthetic so that they can accurately forecast how long that road will last. So,
Okay, I'm happy with that, Mr. Chair.
good. Any other questions on that while we're talking about it?
So I might just say that in what James just said then about the data going through to Aesthetic, we've had quite a bit of discussion with Aesthetic in regards to what we can and can't do. We are underutilising their system, but yeah, as time goes on, we're going to continue to give them more and more, which is going to better manipulate the data that we have. So that'll continue to evolve.
Can I just make a comment, David? I think you asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago regarding, or it might have been James, about Pascoe Road, how that has seemed to have deteriorated. What can we say? The focus on a few of the property owners there has changed, and there has been a considerable amount of lucerne hay under irrigation grown out there now, and that has been carting through Lucendale from Pascoe Road out to Heinrich Road and down Carcooma Road. If it doesn't go to the feedlot, it goes south to other people. So that is a road that has changed its usage in probably the last 4 months, because they have just changed the system that they were working on out there. And with, I suppose, in the long run, we really have to start planning ahead with Thomas International by Coombe Park. And they are doing a lot of work out there, and that will no longer be an olive farm, it will be a cattle, sheep, whatever property, and more so a backgrounding, I believe. So there will be a lot more vehicles using that area, and big vehicles. So that we are forewarned, I suppose. And also the other thing is with Heinrich Road, we've got to look to the future. When the Thomas International new abattoirs start off, that will go back and be getting the hammering it did 3 years ago or whatever, before it burnt down. But I'm sure James and I know James and David are those things. So it's something we've got to start planning for now, really, isn't it?
Well, that's where we encourage property owners to communicate with us, so or yourselves, just to be able to give us that understanding as to what's happening, which can allow us to better plan for future work.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, James, where you go?
No problem at all. Coldy Road projects. The reason there's 2 budget lines there is because there's 2 different funding streams that project's been completed. Coorong 7 Mile Road is currently in design. We had the survey done yesterday, I believe it was, yeah. Very recently anyway. Design's a few weeks away, and then our staff can start that at the start of June, and they'll expend the remaining funding this financial year. Footpath replacements, as we can see, well, sorry, you can't see because there's no expenditure line. There's 1 footpath project remaining to be done here in Tailem Bend. That's replacing the footpath from the hospital through to the Riverside Hotel, through that garden type area there. It's quite badly damaged. Curb and gutter replacements are all now completed. We were waiting on the final invoice, hence why the in the third quarter review. It wasn't quite completed, but all works are completed there. Street and park furniture, I might just ask Steve to give a quick update.
So through you, Mr. Chair, furniture's been identified in Canalton, both the swimming pool and the RSL park there for replacement. We've stored preliminary costings from suppliers, so it's just a case now of actually formalising that. With the next item being the playgrounds, we actually did have the peak football level playground earmarked initially, but obviously that's now been undertaken through the Drought Communities program. So based upon that KICO report, the next playground in line was Tower Bend. So there's a multi-function piece of equipment over there which is getting quoted as we speak. In addition, there's a slide and so forth within that same proximity, and there's also the small playground at Brownie Park in Tintinara.
Very good. Now, Steve, it's only been trained, that work has been completed. Dixon Reserve, again, there's two lines of funding, two different streams. Councillor Antry?
Just on the, when you said about the peak playground, are we definitely sure that that is part of the drought funding? Because I thought it was only the resurfacing of the netball club, what do you call it, courts. I didn't realise that included the playground, so just, can you confirm that?
We'll have to check, councillor.
Because I know the playground was raised a while ago and it had already been presented to Hayden Weckett, and he was looking through options to do with the playground. And if it is now being included, we just need to be really sure of that, otherwise they'll miss out altogether because they've already pulled their playground out.
I'll confirm later in the meeting.
Just have a broad question, Mr. Chair. We still haven't actually had federal government endorsement, have we?
Oh, wow.
No.
Collective groan.
This is really alarming that they can't get their act together and confirm this stuff.
We've still got the problem, so we're just waiting on them to allocate.
If there's no other discussion on that, I'll keep moving forward. Dixon Reserve upgrades. So we've had some issues there with SA Water not providing us approval to actually install the houseboat mooring posts as originally designed. Underneath Dixon Reserve is a 355 millimetre diameter pressurised water supply, the Jervois, and they've basically said 10 metres either side of that pipeline, you're not allowed to construct anything, vacant rule. So we've had to do a little redesign of the houseboat pile locations, and then we've had to sort some approvals from SA Water. But that's all finalised now, and works will look to proceed late next week or early the following week. With the floating pontoon facility, the successful contractor proposed a slightly alternative design, which they believe to be a better outcome than originally designed. Essentially, they've changed the type of pontoon, which makes it slightly wider and will provide better stability for the users. I received the revised engineering documents yesterday. Myself and David will review them over the next day or two. And that's in line with the program that Bridget sent out a little while ago with regards to that project there. So no change from that original program that Bridget's distributed to everyone. Murray Coorong Trail, I believe.
Mr. Chair, please. Mr. Chair, I still want to speak. I want to speak on that Dixon Reserve, please.
Councillor Quammen, go ahead.
Thank you. Before James moves on, and now James, I believe that stage 1 of Dixon Reserve project. I was down there. I often walk down there every day, and down the river frontage in front of the barbecue shelter area. I assume that's where it's going to all happen. There's still some willow stumps and that in the river, and also a lot of logs and that floating around. Are they going to be cleaned up, or the contractor is supposed to finish that off? What goes on there, please?
Yeah, certainly. So the stumps themselves, we're not allowed to pull them out of the bank because that's the EPA requirement with regards to bank stability. But the loose debris that's in the water will be cleaned up when the machines are on site installing the piles. So.
Right. Okay. Thanks, James.
So can I just, through you, Mr. Chair, I think with a lot of the concern that you have, Councillor Cormann, that will be eliminated through the process James is talking about. With the stump component, it's just that single stump. So yeah, a lot of that other stuff down there will go as part of the cleanup.
Thanks, David.
I think, moving on, obviously Murray Coorong Trail, I think we've had some discussion on that one. Riakan are closed to the general public at the moment due to COVID-19, so we can't progress with that project down there until those restrictions are lifted through Riakan. And that's a 3-year, I believe, 3-year funding project anyway there, so we're not in any danger of not meeting the funding requirements. Meningie North Jetty project. I know David and the LGA have been assessing tenderers and discussing with the preferred contractor about the options down there. I don't believe we're too far away from awarding that project.
No. So through you, Mr. Chairman, as I've advised before, the tenders come in higher than what the budget is, which was expected. We did go out with the gold-plated style jetty wharf. So what LGA procurement have done, they've gone back to the contractors that have indicated they can build it cheaper, but doing it a different kind of way. So we're just waiting on those revised ideas, costings to come forward, and with them we'll go through to the marine engineers to get them to have a look at it to ensure that it makes our requirements. So we expect that those redesigns will go through to Magrins within the coming week. That's based on the update I had with Martin last Friday.
Now moving on to the CWMS, I might ask Steve or David to provide a quick update.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. Very long-winded process. Over the past month, there has been various meetings with SA Health. In those discussions with SA Health, we come back to the preferred contractor who have revised their proposal and submitted through to LGA procurement. So I expect that this week I'll be able to forward a recommendation through to Bridget, the CEO, who will then be able to hopefully approve that. And we have had commitment from the contractor that they expect to be able to complete the works before the 30th of June.
Moving on, the fuel unit at Tailem Bend, that's been installed, up and running, and no issues or concerns with that unit. Plant machinery replacement, I know Steve has completed the procurement process for replacement of the mower, and I received the final quote through for the road maintenance trailer today. Myself and Dean will review those quotes tomorrow and make a recommendation for approval from David by the end of the week.
Mr. Chairman, Councillor Qualman.
Councillor Qualman,
yeah, thank you. A bit hard to get attention here. That plant and replacement priorities to be determined. Through you to Steve, are we going to get rid of the walker and not replace having a walker, so we won't have a ride on them with no catching facility? Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, that's not correct. We're actually trading in our existing walker mower for a brand new replacement equivalent model, which will be a walker as well.
Oh, it's good. Thank you. Yep.
We'll have a catcher mower to mirror what we've got now.
Very good.
Moving on, Tailem Bend public toilets. I know David's working through that process still. Not sure if there's any further update really required, David.
I gave a bit of an update last week. Do you want any update from what I provided last week? No, nothing's changed, so.
Is it still anticipated is going to be finished by the 30th of June though, David. It just seems that, you know, time is rushing on to get this done within this financial year.
So you, Chair, I think my first council meeting here, we said that it was not intended to do it this financial year. I mean, from where we sit, councillor, the designs haven't been approved yet.
We
Different types that you've asked us to provide input on, ranging from the, I'll get this wrong, but your basic bush toilet type of structure through to one that's sympathetic to the current railway station and one in the middle. So we're still working through scoping that and getting some design plans and costs around that.
The thing that worries me is here, we made, it was mentioned in a council meeting here a while ago, probably be, you know, around about 6 or 12 months before we'd be able to do it. We've still got it in the budget this year as being done by the 30th of June. Now, if it's not possible to do it by, I know you've got to do the background work, but if it's not possible to do it by the 30th of June and have the work finished, why have we still got it in the budget for this year? Why haven't we got it in this adjustment to the budget that it won't be done this year?
For you, councillor, that will happen our third quarter review, and it will sit there. And if we needed to roll it over to the next financial year, we then, I mean, generally at the end of the financial year, you make an assessment about whether the project needs to be done or not. With this particular one, the answer would be yes. So it would roll over to the next financial year. We're accounting for that in our financials.
Okay. Continue, James. Sorry.
Yep, no problems. Motor vehicle replacement, David's working through that process with LGA. And I know that myself and Steve and Dean reviewed a specification for replacement vehicles just last week, so that one won't be far away from being completed. Wellington East and Peak, our water supply capital works. The works at Peak are completed now, and I believe Steve's investigating a replacement of a tank at Wellington East with the remaining budget for this financial year.
So through you, Mr. Chair, just with regard to Wellington East, what we're looking to do is actually install a new tank there, a larger tank, which will actually supplement the existing tank system there. So that will give us better capacity for the residents down there. So
Jetties and boat ramps, capital again is in Steve's area.
Yep, so that there's no further update to that. Last conversation with the contractor who raised the order to is that all works will be completed prior to the end of financial year.
The next three items are IT related. I can't really provide an update, and I'm unsure if Sean is in a position to give an update on those at all.
Not at this time. Thanks.
No.
The buildings capital works, as you can see there.
Just excuse me, sorry, through you, Chairman. With the IT, does that include the new software for the finance?
No. For you, Chair, no. No, it doesn't, councillor.
Okay, I was hopeful that that might have been the 73,000.
That may form part of it if after we have the presentation with the providers, the two providers who are looking to give us a system, which is happening this week, we may be able to use that 73,000 as part of that, depending on which way we go. And we'll keep you updated on that.
Okay, thank you.
Our capital buildings budget, you can see there Meningie CCI has a gutter replacement project which has been scheduled. The Canalpin Hall, also has some works there that have been scoped, POs raised, and they're scheduled to be completed as well.
So if I may add to that, Mr. Chair, so with respect to the Meningie CCI, I've received confirmation from the contractor they're hoping to commence later in May, with the project due to take approximately 6 to 7 days. So that should be definitely done this financial year. Canalpin Hall, with the works there, off-site works have already commenced, which includes construction of the 3 staircases. So I'm waiting on advice back from the contractor as to when they propose to start works on site. But again, that project is anticipated to be completed within this financial year.
And the final project here on the list is the bollard project here at the office. Currently doing some investigations into a bit of a redesign there, whether bollards are our best option, or if we proceed with some vehicle mitigation protection in the parking bays in lieu of on the footpath. So I'm working to redesign that with a view to present it to David and Bridget for consideration.
Right, does anybody got any questions regarding that? I think we went through it, asking questions as we went.
Yep.
There's just one I would just like to ask. It's probably more so to David than you, James. I'll let you off the hook.
No worries.
Regarding the CWMS scheme, we've had a proposal to upgrade it. We had a figure in the budget, which obviously has come in under budget. But why wouldn't you go with the quote that you've received if that's what you wanted to do, instead of changing the design of it? Because the CWMS scheme, as we know, has to be run as a separate entity. It has got $652,000 in credit that council holds at this present point in time at the end of June this year. So if we were going to spend an extra $30,000 to get the Mickey Mouse thing, there should have been no reason why we shouldn't have been able to do it. My question is, why did we change?
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to bring up some design plans. Yes.
Well, my question, I suppose, is I hope we didn't shortcut what we should have been doing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll re-show my screen. Is that sharing? No, it's not.
Councillors, we're just having a bit of an IT thing with the sharing.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, through Mr. Chair, look, not wanting to be critical to anyone, the SA Health Department, who are the regulatory authority in regards to the design, they do change their design requirements quite frequently, and I guess that has been part of the issue here. As I alluded to before, there have been various meetings over the past month with representatives from SA Health, looking at what we need to do to achieve what we need to achieve with our upgrade. What I'm showing you here is fundamentally the upgrade of the works here at Tail and Bend. Look, I don't know, do you want to go into anything, Steve? Or? The one thing that we have been able to do to reduce the price of the works have been the installation of a filter screen. When the liquid comes in to this, which one does it come into, Steve? This one here, isn't it? That one's tank. So when the liquid comes in, originally it was proposed to have a screen there where the liquid basically just runs through a screen with any larger debris being caught and falling down into a bin, a typical skip bin. Given the changes with SA Health and their guidelines, they've come back and said, look, given that we're not operating as a full sewer system, we don't need to worry about putting in the screen. That has been a significant saving. The other thing has been, which has probably brought the price up a little bit, has been the process of the liquid as it runs through the filtration system within the disinfectation system. So it runs through a labyrinth of pipe. Currently the system basically it just runs through a pipe, it gets dosed with chlorine and then filtered by a proper cartridge, it's not a cartridge, or?
We do have cartridge brewers.
It is cartridge, yes.
Discan cartridge.
Yeah. Whereas now it can't be filtered by a simple injection of chlorine. It's got to go through a series of pipe work, which will allow for the liquid to be, or to maintain a certain contact period to allow it to disinfect, to go through that disinfectation process before it goes through to the irrigation tank or the lagoon. So fundamentally, we are seeing a significant reduction in the works, but it's still, you know, around that 400, mid 400 price range. So yeah, the main thing is we looked at the original concept design probably this time last year. We based it on the relevant guidelines at the time, but through discussions over the past 6, 7, 8 months with SA Health, it has seen various changes having to be made. So, but we're at the point now where the drawings that we have, we've had that verbal confirmation from SA Health that when it goes through for formal approval, it's going to be a simple tick and flick.
Okay, thank you for that, David. Right, if we've got nothing more, I thank James also for that extensive capital works update, and I hope that will be put in the minutes. Then we go on to item 11 now, which is the tree assessment update.
Does anybody want to move it? Yeah.
Would someone like to move that recommendation?
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it then.
Yeah, thank you. Move Councillor Coleman, seconded Councillor Roundtree. Any discussion on that?
Councillor Corman, please, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I see what they call it, financial implication, the arborist. I've got a couple of questions. That's my first one. Anybody got a rough idea how much the arborist is going to cost us, or that's too far out?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer that. We've received a quotation from one arborist company thus far and waiting on another. What we've done is, just to give you a bit of background, is throughout the district, I've had our contact staff go through and undertake assessment of trees, predominantly in public areas and so forth, where the risk is deemed highest. And off the back of that, we've then categorised the trees, and we've come up with about 240 odd trees, which we've broken down into discrete districts, being Carnarvon, Menindee, Tailem Bend and Tinsnara. And off the back of that, of the quote we've received thus far, we're looking at about $22,000 from the first arborist. And I'm waiting on this other price to come in from the second arborist.
Councillor Roundtree.
Are these trees being removed, when they say they're dangerous, are they at risk of falling over, or what is the danger with these trees?
So
I asked this because Carnarvon's Coombenduke Area School had a lot of trees removed when they probably didn't need them.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I mean,
based on the advice of an arborist.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, what we've done is we've looked at those public places, and a great example, I suppose, would be the Carnarvon swimming pool. There's a large gum in that area there. If that was to lose a limb or something like such, hopefully it doesn't, that would potentially cause significant injury or loss of life. So what we're looking to do is actually get a recommendation or report from the arborist that actually identifies what the risk may be for specific trees. Where necessary, we would actually then look to undertake pruning. If they deem that the tree should be removed, we would then do so. But also, as part of that report, they'll provide recommendation about what we should be doing in the longer term. So it might be a case where individual trees need to be monitored.
Through Mr. Chairman, what I found when I was on governing council of the Coombenduke Area School, and they had an arborist come in and assess all their beautiful red gums around their school oval, is that the arborist had found that there was a problem and a potential problem with some of these red gums, but no one wanted to sign off on taking responsibility for what the tree might do into the future. And because the school didn't want to and the arborist didn't want to, the only option left was just to pull them all out. And it was an absolute tragedy to see such beautiful trees removed just because no one wanted to accept the liability that may come with having these trees still there. So I really hope that when this arborist does provide his response, that we don't do anything too drastic and if it's not absolutely required.
So you, councillor, yes, it's always a tricky one, but in a sense we have to take the recommendations of the professionals, which is the arborist in this case. I understand sometimes that neither party want to take responsibility, but I hope we can resolve those things into the future without cutting trees down as the only solution, because we can't agree.
I hope so too.
Yes, David. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit. I'm not sure if you're all aware of the process we have to follow, but under the native vegetation guidelines, we are allowed to remove a tree if it is posing a risk to either people or property. In our delegations that we were talking about the other day, we have a specific delegation in regards to who can make a decision to remove a tree within the organisation. Now, I am one of them, and we need to be reassured in whenever we make a decision, if we remove a tree, there is significant proof that it is causing a risk to either people or property. Because look, there have been some cases where a tree has been removed. You get people that will make a complaint, and if Native Vegetation Department come down and do that investigation, that's where you've got to be able to justify your decision. Moving on from that, that is typically where we would engage an arborist. A professional, qualified person, organisation, who I guess we're paying money for to make that recommendation to allow us to be able to make that informed decision. So that's just a bit of background in regards to the process that we go through.
Mr. Chairman, hello.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think, yeah. Oh,
Right.
sorry.
Councillor Simmons first, then you, Councillor Roundtree.
I'm prepared to move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman, and along with Councillor Roundtree, I won't use the words the wrong day, because I carted most of the water up that hill at Kermadoo Area School to get those economic trees growing. And so that I would imagine that the risk will be in what the mutual liability scheme thinks is a reasonable risk versus the education department thinking was a reasonable or unreasonable risk. But I just think of probably whether we can scope down the arborist, you know, for a first and second stage, or I don't know, but that seems to me the way forward at this stage.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to second the recommendation, but just remembering that every tree poses a potential risk of falling over at some point in the future. And I just want to make sure we make a good decision, because these trees take hundreds of years to grow and just minutes to pull down. And what I saw with the area school was, I just thought was one of the biggest tragedies of that school.
Mr. Chair.
I am happy to second it.
Did you have your hand up, Councillor Kwon?
Yes, I did. Please,
Yes.
I want to speak a bit more onto this subject, please. Thank you. Well, members, this is an elephant in the room. We got the arborist, and I expect that and respect that decision. Of course, we have professional guidance needed. However, I can't understand, and a lot of residents around here at Tarlan Bend, and I've jumped up and down before about this, over 100 dead trees, which are only of not significant size, can be pulled out quite easily by community and facility guys, and yet nothing gets done about it. There's a total eyesore. They do not need an arborist report. They're totally dead, and yet nothing happens. And like I said, I did an audit myself, and there's over 100 dead trees in Tarlan Bend. It's parks and it's reserves, and it looks crap. Thank you.
Maybe Steve, would you have a quick comment on that?
I suppose with respect to that, through Mr. Chair, I'm happy to catch up with Councillor Corman if deemed appropriate to actually undertake a review of those trees in question. And if it's something whereby it's deemed that our staff are capable of doing so, then we'll look to action that.
Okay, if there's no further.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. That'll be good, because I'm just a bit frustrated on this end, because I want to say to the council, and I want permission to say this, and I won't talk crap. I want to say that poor old Tarlan Bend looks a bit substandard compared to other towns. I mean, Ingy and Tinty look quite neat and well maintained. So why can't we maintain ours the same? Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour?
In favour.
Carried unanimously. The next is the Rung Road shoulders.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
Moved Councillor Qualman. Seconded Councillor Roundtree. Is there any further discussion? I think it is a very in-depth report.
Chairman,
It's frightening.
my question will be, is that one of the projects that will be in that $1 million sealed roads budget maintenance in this forthcoming year?
Yeah, I guess through Mr. Chair, through the budget process, and it'll certainly be a road put up as a recommendation to the committee in regards to works to be done.
Yeah, I'll second through you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, the appropriate funding stream for a project like this is our annual sealed roads capital renewal program, and this road will be considered against all other roads that we inspect prior to putting that list through to this committee and the full council. But to answer the question simply, yes, this is the type of project that would be considered for that capital works budget stream.
Can I just ask one question there to James? Of the shoulder works, is this the only road you've actually looked at? Because I know the Woodswell Road at the present moment, you could drive a Mini off the side and you got lost with the ways and the holes on the side.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Woodswell is being looked at the moment as well. It's being looked at as a maintenance expenditure in the first instance, whereas some of those localised areas of drop off the edge of the shoulders will be fixed up under a maintenance sort of scale of works. Whereas on Narung Road, we see a significant drop along extensive lengths of the road, which actually the cost involved in those repairs put it up to be a capital project. Obviously, that expenditure need to be capitalised because it is actually improving the life of the road. So, no, it's not the only project we're looking at, but it is the only project that is at the stage where it needs extensive capital expenditure.
Okay, thank you. We've already passed that, according to him. The next is the mobile black spot program update, which unfortunately closed 3 weeks ago, so we missed out on it. So I would like to get this moved, that this is a priority this time, that we get it out there now for the next one, which comes up, I believe, if I'm wrong, David, in October. Is that about right?
Date's been set, councillor.
No, that's not. No date's been set, has it?
No, I couldn't see a date. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Chair? Through the Chair, there's no date being set yet. We're keeping an eye on when the closing date is.
Chairman, I'll move the report if I may, move the recommendation, but I would note that last week I think an announcement was made and we had I think it's going to be not Tara Wellington, not Wellington East, but could be expected to service our area. But we do need to do this work.
You have a seconder for that?
I'll second Councillor Qualman.
All those in favour? Everybody's up. Carried unanimously. Road management strategy, item 14. And we'll be over to David.
Yeah, through Mr. Chairman. Look, I just wanted to give you a bit of an update in regards to probably more so our upcoming workshop with ASCETIC. There's no doubt that it has been on hold given the COVID-19 issue that we're experiencing at the moment. but in conversation with both Bridget and Shay, we're looking at holding an initial meeting in the next week or so, and then looking at setting a Zoom meeting with all of the elected members. So in this session, we want to go through the setting journey again, highlight what we do and why we do it, look at how we go through our prioritisation process in regards to roadworks. Just recapping on the whole process, just to try and give people a better understanding. What I have sent out is a very simple, high-level understanding of our Coorong asset insight. It is very high-level, trying to give a very quick summary of our asset classes in 3 or 4 pages. But yeah, I'd suggest if you want to have a look at that in your own time, there's nothing specific I want to go through in regards to this document, but certainly happy to answer any questions.
You send that out to all elected members to go through and peruse?
Or do you want me to put it in the minutes, attach it to the minutes?
It's sent out.
Sorry, David?
To the committee?
Yeah.
So you, Chair, will send it to all councillors. It has initially only gone to the committee members, but we will attach it to the minutes and circulate it to all councillors.
Yeah, that's what I mean, all councillors, yes. Okay. Someone like to move that we receive that report from David, that verbal report?
I'll move, Councillor Corman.
Councillor Qualman seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Who moved? Who moved it?
Who's that? I heard something in the background. Was that?
That's okay, Chair. We're just getting the mechanics right.
Okay. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is general business. I'll go around the table and ask, first of all, Councillor Qualman, have you, I'm only doing this because you're the first alongside me. Councillor Qualman, have you got any further general business?
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, and to the directors and the staff. This is my second go at this at home, and I did a trial run with the Tailem Bend Community Centre yesterday, and I found it really quite easy and in comfort of my own home. And Josh has been doing the right thing and staying out of the background, and I can hear properly. I've got earphones on, and I feel I can get more actively engaged. And I thank everybody. That I think we're a well-run meeting, and I got a lot of answers to a lot of my questions. Thank you.
Councillor Roundtree?
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Coleman's saying. Actually, these are working really well, and I'm actually finding it easier when we share the screen and we're able to see things on the screen. It's much easier than trying to see them on the screens in the office. So I think it's working really well, and yeah, well-run meeting. Thank you.
Mayor Simmons?
The CEO just mentioned that 1 down, 1 to go, and she was looking at me. I think that was in the electronic meeting procedure. All I would say is, sorry, Brendan, we can't always see your hand where we are because it's just the angle of the camera. It's just the angle of your face to the camera, and Councillor Arthur often is a little bit the same. That's for my help later. I'm looking at Sean and hoping he will get me to the next stage of knowing how to turn it on very soon. I have only other general business, quite honest.
Well, from where I sit, you're a shining light, Paul. Yeah, the big shining light in front of you, and just a black outline. But there's probably no problems. I think these meetings are working well, and I thank you and everybody for their attendance. And with further ado, I'll call the meeting to an end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopping now.